Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Impact Stage. I'm Jen Lau. I'm the Director of Fundraising AI. I'm so thrilled to be with you today. We have got some fantastic sessions coming up. We've already knocked through a couple fantastic sessions, but we've got more coming up. And this one in particular, I'm so excited about. We are so fortunate this day to have Meena Das from Namaste Data coming to speak to us about what we should know about AI equity trends and truths. So clearly, this is something that is super important to all of us at Fundraising AI, and we can't wait to share Meena's experience with you. Meena is helping nonprofits build equity-centered data and AI practices. She's a BIPOC immigrant woman and trusted sector voice. She leads the AI Equity Project. She teaches data and AI equity. She speaks globally on building human-centered relationships with technology rooted in kindness, curiosity, and community care. We're so fortunate to get to work with Meena on a regular basis, and we're so grateful that she's here to share her experiences and expertise with you all. You'll see the kindness, curiosity, and care coming from her throughout this session. So without further ado, let's kick it off, Meena.
All right, can you hear me okay? Fantastic. I think I am on stage and I do see some thumbs up. Fantastic. Okay, so I am going to share my screen, which I think you all can see. Jen, thank you so much for sharing that love. Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending on where you're joining from. I am Meena Das. My pronouns are she, her. I am joining from the lands of Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh nations. In other words, beautiful Vancouver, BC, here in Canada. So if there are friends from Canada that I can see, some of you, welcome and glad to see you here. I am also acknowledging that I'm working from my home office, which is also Access Art Studio for some of the people here locally. So you can see some of my background. I'm excited to talk to you about AI equity. I'll introduce myself in a second, but I want to acknowledge two things. One, the data acknowledgement. The data that we work with is not perfect. It has complexities, it has nuances. That means we need care and commitment when we need to put integrity into it. And the second acknowledgement is more of a personal, vulnerable moment. I don't know how many of you knew George Irish. George Irish, he was a wonderful friend here, wonderful human from here from Canada working on AI. He and I were supposed to be working on this project together, and unfortunately we lost him recently. And I am sad. I'm coming with that vulnerable moment, but I'm also bringing what everything George believed in helping the sector in the best way possible with this technology in a responsible, meaningful, beneficial, efficient way. And so I am channeling George's good energy along with my commitment as I speak to you about these AI equity trends and truths. So I run a consulting practice called Namaste Data. It is about data equity and AI equity. And no, I'm not changing the word AI or the equity from those words. And the work that I do is about aligning who we are and why we do things, what we do, and our values in this work of data and AI. And I support nonprofits, foundations, social impact agencies, whatnot. This little picture you see on the right-hand side is one of those pictures from an Indigenous artist, George, to be honest, introduced me to Sky Louise here in Canada. And they designed this picture after hearing me talk about AI 2 years ago at a conference. And they designed this and said, Meena, we need to reprogram the DNA of what we do with AI, and we need it to be a collective effort. And so I acknowledge that image and I include that in my presentations. Okay, so if you are here for the next 45 seconds and if you're hopping around, I want to give you some things that you can carry out of this session. I'm going to be talking to you through the AI Equity Project. Now, this is a state of the sector, almost state of the sector with AI project. We'll get into the details of what this project is and whatnot. But two very interesting data points that comes out of this 114-page report of this almost state of the sector report, is 76% nonprofits are using AI. That means whether it is through one application or more, whether it is through it is for creating a social post or using it for segmentation, or whether it is one person or using it as a team, one way or the other, 76% nonprofits are using AI. Compelling, great, awesome. But only 15% have any form of AI policy. That worries me. That's concerning. AI, something that you need to understand, the next 30 years with AI has three truths. One, AI is here to stay, we like it or not. Two, we will see more applications of AI. So if you are using 5 applications to create your image with AI right now, you will likely have about 20 as option, 20 applications as option by the end of the year. So we are only going to have more options of doing the same thing through more tools. And number 3 is that the rate of growth with AI is going to grow. So if you can see, there are 10 new apps coming in the span of 3 months. We are going to have 15 new apps coming in the span of 25 days. That this rate of growth is growing. And in those 3 trends, if you see that the nonprofits are using AI, but they don't have those guardrails, then it is really bothering, worrying that we are probably opening ourselves to some inequities. Which brings us to the big question: will AI and nonprofits widen inequities or help us to build a more just future? So when I speak in the next 20 minutes to you, I am not going to give you exactly what's happening in the report. You will have the report already, or if you haven't downloaded it yet, Jen will share a link with you. You can download it and look through the report. What I do want to give you is a simple answer to the simple question. This is my hypothesis question, almost my data scientist meets this life coach brain, asking the question, will AI widen inequities in our sector or will create a more just future? So I'm going to pull those statistics, those numbers, those stories, those comments for you, which will answer this question. And my one goal in the next 20 minutes is I want to give you a framework or a foundation for AI equity. What does this word mean even, right? And I want to give you the understanding that you have agency. This is a word that comes up very commonly in my conversations where people feel, do one person even matter in this big, overwhelming conversation of AI? And I want to remind you in these next 20 minutes that it does. You do have agency. It is individual accountability that leads to collective power. And I get reminded of that agency through this lovely quote that I have on my table and now on the slide. And I'm going to read it for you. I am only one, but still I am one. I cannot do everything, but still I can do something. And because I cannot do everything, I will not refuse to do the something that I can do. So I am asking you, by answering that one question that we just created, and by asking you to read the report, is to not refuse to do something that you can do. You have agency. So the link Jen is going to share with you is under the resources. We don't have to look into the report right now. Let's get into the 2 or 3 things that I do want to share. The AI equity framework, some highlights, and answer to that question we just created. And then let's leave with some space for what can you do next and some Q&As. Yeah? AI equity. Let's start with the foundation. What does this even mean? So on the left-hand side of the slide, you can see a little bit of a definition: the ethical development, deployment, and use of the systems, any system, whether you're using a CRM or you're using a core product that can segment something for you as an add-on, or you are creating your own algorithm, right? Any AI system, its development, deployment, and use that prioritizes fairness, inclusion, and justice. But that's a bit of a text wordy definition. I like the picture version on the right-hand side. See, I look at AI equity more as a commitment. It's not just a checklist item on list of things after we have acquired a AI tool. This on the right hand side, the image that you see, it's levels and layers of commitment when we are working through any AI system, which starts with really data equity. So, whose data are we working with in this AI system? How was it collected? Who is represented? Who is not? It gets to transparency, right? Um, how was this data collected in the sense, was there consent? Was there confidentiality? Did they know about it? Was this data collected, right? Accountability. What happens when something goes wrong with the data? Understand that our data that we work with is never going to be perfect because it is bringing in this historical context, this historical biases into it, which means we have to be careful, intentional, and committed. So how do we hold ourselves accountable, right? Inclusivity. Does this include our communities that we are working with in this conversation? And then how do we layer all this with our org values as well as our individual values? This complicated layered set of bubbles is our commitment to how we use AI systems. That is the foundation of AI equity. I'm taking that, and I've been taking that for the last 2 years and turning it into a almost the state of the sector report I call the AI Equity Project. So this year, this project collected data as well as harm stories for 3 months, for the entire summer, almost May to July. 850 nonprofits, beautiful, amazing, small, mid, large, different sectors represented in this conversation. Something interesting happened that you will find in the report. Of these 850 respondents of different nonprofits, there was a lot of good metadata collected. So, not just about the role and sector, but also about gender, but also about the barriers depending on identity, right? Location. You're going to find some good identity markers using which we have been looking into what are those harms that can be created. Okay, let's come back. So we have a framework of AI equity. We know what happened, how many, at least basics of how many data points were collected. What were the highlights, the key highlights? So here I have about 5 to 6 numbers that I want to share with you, and I'm going to give you in an interesting way. So first, we found AI readiness is stuck in a curiosity mode in the sector. Okay, some statistics. Get ready for some numbers. So 76% nonprofits said they're using AI, right? We established that. 9% said that they feel confident to adopt it responsibly. So we have 9% who said who can adopt it responsibly, and 76% are using AI. 32% said that they know how to attach what they do with AI and connect it with their mission. There are a few gaps. You'll read it. You don't need to remember any of the numbers, but when you read the report, you'll see some of these gaps. This is how it looks when we are working exactly with this problem in the sector. Our intern is the AI expert because she used ChatGPT in college. I have heard statements like these before in a lot of my conversations. I am connecting every highlight with a possible statement you may have said or heard around you so that you remember what we are learning from this report, right? The next thing that we found from this report was equity concerns exist. They are loud, but action is quiet. Do you know how I found that? 50% said that they understand AI could create harm in the sector, right? But 15% have AI policy. So people understand, right, that there can be harms with AI, but we are not willing or not understanding how to invest our energy and resources to build those AI equity value statements or policies, right? A statement of that. Everyone worries about bias. No one knows who's in charge of fixing it. This is a statement I have heard from a foundation. I'm pulling, again, those statements connecting to each highlight. The third one that we learned from the report was nonprofits do want AI for good. It is true. If you hear around in conferences and sessions and blogs, you are going to read that, but they feel ill-equipped. It's not surprising. It's not shocking. More than 70% said that they believe AI can help manage the workload. But only 38% said they have any kind, 3.8% said they have any kind of a budget to dedicate for their staff upgrading consistently so that they can upskill. So 3.8% have dedicated budget for consistent upskilling, but more than 70% believe that it can help in managing the workload. So an example of that statement is my recent client who said, we bought the tool, whatever the tool is, but we don't have budget for training. So it all comes down to Jane, who is our data person. These three statements, we may have heard it, said it, or see our leaders speaking of it. These all include underlying layers of work that we can do when we are thinking about AI equity. Now, 5 truths that I want to tell you, because we are following the question, right? Will it widen inequity or will it create a just future? So 5 truths. 1, 76% now are using AI tools. This increased from 59% in 2024. So there's a report for last year as well. We launched it around the same time. And it was 59% last year. So it's growing. We have more nonprofits now who are interested, are aware. We can't really ignore it because, well, we have about 500 emails that comes and talks about AI every day. So we have more nonprofits using it, but only 15% have any policy or governance. 1. 2, that I have created some interesting custom metrics in this report. You will find one of them is called the equity practice ratio, which means the number of nonprofits who know about data equity, but are not putting it into action. Last year, 46% nonprofits, they said they know about equity and they put it into action. This year, it is 36%. So 36% nonprofits know about equity, but they are not putting it into action. It fell down, right? And yet, the familiarity of AI, as well as the AI bias, 2 different words, AI and AI bias, that increased. So last year, from last year, now we have about AI familiarity sitting at 80% in our sector, and AI bias familiarity is at 64%. Lots of numbers again, you don't need to remember it. But the overall answer to that question that we thought was, can it widen inequities? It could if we don't adopt these tools without realizing how to put our values at the center of it, right? And it will build a just future if the funders, our policymakers, our tech developers, right, we all collectively invest in equity-centered infrastructure, right? We do have to simply commit to this bringing us together in this community-led governance practices. So there is no alternative to that. There is no simple answer to that. There is just work for us, cut out for us, and we have to do that work. So what can you do now? Well, obviously, read the report. We really took like 20 minutes to get through one question. Read the report. And 3 things that I want you to do. 1, advocate for staff training. There is no replacement for collective learning, okay? 2, become friends with your data. We are living at a time when our nonprofits are constantly being threatened, right? Our communities are hurting. We don't know how to support them. We are learning how to support them. And 3, AI is knocking our doors more and more every single day. In this trifecta of things, the best thing you can do or start with is become friends with your data. Understand who is collecting, what is being collected, who is being represented. And number 3, push for those AI equity policies. And I mean, I'm taking both the words. You need an AI policy and you need a data policy. They are not 2 clubbed together in one single document. Push for those documents. You need those. And it's a bit of like a circle. Once you have the policies, you have to go back and train again your staff members to understand how to use those policies. You, in that process, continue to become friends with your data. And this cycle hopefully creates and leads to that AI equity commitment. All right, 2 things as we part in, like, I want to keep 5 minutes for Q&A. Do not refuse to do something that you can do, right? You have agency. Remember, Individual accountability leads to collective power. And number two, I always leave the sessions with a dream question. Here's a dream question for you. What is the first barrier you would break with if, say, you got $5,000 to get your team AI ready? What is the first barrier that you are going to break? That's your dream question. Think about it. Okay, I'm going to stop sharing my screen, come back on the screen. Jen, I'm going to bring you back just so we can see some questions if we have any.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Meena. And thank you for sharing the report with all of us too. I know this just came out, so this is a huge opportunity for folks to engage with this content, learn more about equity and AI and fundraising. And yeah, we're really excited to dig in a little bit with you. So I know you mentioned some truths about AI, and we had a great question about like, what's the biggest misconception about AI right now? Do you have like a single kind of primary myth that you're looking to bust, or a challenge or question that you're really hoping that we can address and take away?
Absolutely. Okay, biggest thing that all right, let's see. I'm going to bring it from instead of bringing the misconception from the report, let me speak from my experience, because I work a lot as an AI resident advisor too for some nonprofits. So something that I've learned more recently is every team has those two groups, two camps. One who says, I don't want to use AI. It is stealing jobs. It's a thief. I'm not going to use it. And then there's one group who is maybe secretly, maybe a little bit on their own, on the side, they are using AI. They truly believe in the powers of this technology and they want to use it. The question is, how do we create that safe space that they can talk to each other? And I have experimented in multiple ways with a bunch of different sides of nonprofits and how to create that safe space. One option is you create that lunch and learn and you talk to each other. But then we have done some creative ways, and this is a misconception that this is something we don't need to work in or ignore or keep pushing for more tools and just this will go away. We need a safe space in our team so that both groups can talk to each other and we can meet each other. We are all working for the same mission. This is not a competition. The question is, how do we all work together for that common purpose so that we can keep our humanity intact in everything that comes out of artificial intelligence? So some examples that I've worked to manage that misconception is we have created a forum called the AI Curiosity Corner. So anyone can add an anonymous question as a staff member, and then people can answer. There's a team that can answer those questions. The other option is there is a forum that says, on Facebook, there's Am I the Bad Person group where people use AI. We created a forum like that in a fun way with a group of staff members. Am I the Bad Person group? It's an anonymous group. Someone can post there, am I the bad person if I'm using it? And everybody collectively has their AI policy on hand and they look at it and say, okay, no, this is fine. We can use it. This is why we are using it. You learn how to live your AI policy. That's what guides you into your next step. That's what I'm working with. And it's an interesting misconception I'm working with.
I love that. I love how you're building a bridge between these folks and saying we can all be at the table together and not oppositional or adversarial, that there's a goal that we can work towards together. There's another great question that's just come in. How does an organization or leader manage the desire for equity, but the feeling that Gen AI is out of their control beyond prompting?
Okay. Most of it comes down to making that space where you can talk to each other, right? Managing for desire for equity, it starts with understanding what is our definition of equity. Every single time I will start teaching about AI in a group of workshops, the first session is let's all come to the table, let's pull a chair for everyone, not just the IT people, not just that Jane who loves data, or not just that college intern who have used ChatGPT. Let's pull a chair and let's talk. What is our values? How do we want to center equity? Your definition could look wildly different than mine. My understanding could look wildly different than mine, and that's okay. But how do we align all of that, come to some common set of language, and then implement that in favor of our mission. We can all use AI in our own different ways beyond prompting or with prompting, but is it in alignment with our mission or not? That's where you can start having conversations of equity. You might create a data equity policy. You might share the practices someone is doing with how they're collecting data or how they're visualizing something, how they're analyzing. It could look a lot of different ways. The how part, honestly, is open. It's up to you what you want to do. The why part, that is where we need collective alignment. Why are we interested in this? Because that's going to create that common language, that solid language that we'll use in implementing it beyond prompting. That was a great question, by the way.
Yeah, I thought so too. We had to ask that. I've got one final question. I don't know if you have a 30-second answer to this.
Okay,
If we
I'll
stay
start.
on our current course, what are long-term sector outcomes from our friend Tim Lockey?
Okay, you have to put this up, Jen, if we can.
Done.
Okay, if we stay on current course, what's the long-term sector? Of course, this is Tim's question. This is question from Tim all over. If we stay on this course, well, I can see 15 years from now, if I am doing this project again, right, I'm going to see the same kind of fears and behaviors, and I'm unwilling to let that happen. I want to see the sector be stronger, have a common narrative, and not go through the same reactions of fear and overwhelm. This is a really strong technology. It can help us in a lot of good ways. The only thing we need to remember is why we exist as a sector. Remember who we are. We are here, why we are here. The better we remember who we are, the better it can support us in how we are using this technology. So I am unwilling in 15 years from now to see this sector constantly struggling how to safely store the data while also being overwhelmed by being asked 100 times, if you don't use AI, you are going to lose X dollars of money. No, we are using AI and from a place of strength, from a place of joy, from a place of our values. That's the outcome that I want. If we don't follow and change our course, probably we aren't going to get that.
Yeah, no, that's so important. And the insights that you're pulling in the equity report are so critical to helping us, recognize our own agency and to think about how we can apply our agency to achieving more AI equity in AI and data. So thank you so much, Meena. I've got to jump into our next session. So grateful for all your content. And for folks, the equity project is linked in the chat and available in resources, and we'll be sharing this as well with folks. So this won't be your last chance to see it.
Thank you so much, Jen. Thank you, everyone. Can't wait to hear more about how you read the book. Bye.
Meena. All right, everybody. Well, I hope you enjoyed that session as much as I did. My video might have gone a little crazy there, but as usual, we're going to ask for you to take a moment to share your feedback on the session. I see a lot of really great comments and thanking Meena in the chat. So if you want to pass that on through our feedback form, we'd love to hear from you. I'm also going to jump into what's next since we have a short break here. On the Amplify stage, we are continuing with the AI-powered nonprofit organization design session. So that's an opportunity to earn a CFRE credit, and that's with Gabe Cooper from our presenting partner at Virtuous. On the innovation stage, we're covering AI readiness and adoption amongst Indian nonprofits. So this is fantastic research from the Giving Tuesday team in India and a great opportunity to learn about global adoption trends. And then right here on the impact stage, in just a couple of minutes, we'll be jumping into AI trust and the nonprofit mission, navigating misinformation and building confidence. So I hope to see you back on this stage in just a minute. And you can view your schedule at the top of the screen, check it out, and rejoin us on Impact Stage for some misinformation and how we can build confidence. Thanks, everyone.